Welcome to a new planetary and seismic update. On the SGI graph from the 14th to the 23rd, you see the geometry that I labeled and that I explained in the previous 10 days overview. And I marked the 16th as particularly critical and most critical around the 21st. You may recall that. If you haven't seen the video, you can look that up. And if you look at the seismic activity that we did have indeed a cluster of stronger earthquakes peaking 6.1 on the 16th. But look at the 21st, basically from the 20th to the 23rd, a huge seismic increase, 4 magnitude 6 or larger earthquakes, peaking 7.1 deep below Sabah, Malaysia, on the 22nd. An obvious seismic response, a huge cluster following the critical geometry when Earth aligned with Saturn and Neptune, but converging with lunar geometry, also with Saturn and Neptune conjunctions here, and the right angle with Venus, Mercury and Uranus that I explained in the previous update regarding this magnitude 7.1 earthquake. Is the first magnitude 7 earthquake since 8 December. So we were a bit in the magnitude 7 drought. That in itself is not uncommon, but this was definitely a time that could generate such a large earthquake, and it happened there. Okay, so let's have a look at the next time frame from the 23rd here, that's today, up until the 4th of March. It's going to be crowded here. We see multiple planetary alignments. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planetary alignments in this time frame, and as you can see, they pretty much cluster or converge. We see groups of geometry here. On the 23rd, Sun, Venus, Neptune, followed by Sun, Venus, Saturn. That's because Saturn and Neptune are still very close in the same region in space. Then we see Sun, Mercury, Jupiter on the 25th. Most significant here is the convergence with lunar geometry, with Jupiter, Uranus and Mars. If you look at the solar system, we see why that is. We have Mars here at a right angle relative to the Moon, Earth and the Moon here. A conjunction with Uranus, and also almost at the same time 45 degrees with Jupiter. If you look here on the 23rd, early 24th, this happens really in a very short time. This is later on the 23rd and early on the 24th. A tight convergence of lunar geometry, and this is going to be significant throughout this time frame. The position of Mars, Uranus and Jupiter, these outer planets, they form the critical geometry in groups in a very short time in this time frame. Is going to be really significant. We see the Sun and we see Venus moving between the Sun, Saturn and Neptune. That's critical geometry, because when Venus aligns with outer planets, we can have a significant seismic response within about 2 days from that geometry. And in addition, we see on the 25th, early on the 25th, also Sun, Mercury and Jupiter in an alignment. And if we look at the SGI graph again, we also see that Sun, Venus, Saturn and Sun, Mercury, Jupiter are pretty close here. This is a near convergence. There are some time between them, but when Mercury and Venus converge in geometry in a short time, that can result in a pretty significant seismic response. So if we take into account this convergence of planetary lunar geometry from the 23rd to the 25th, we could see a seismic response in typical strong earthquakes, higher 5, borderline 6 magnitude range here on the 24th, and there could be a larger seismic response around the 25th, give or take 1 day. Then we look at the 27th, 28th. Again, we see a near convergence of lunar geometry, the same grouping of Mars, Uranus and Jupiter, different angles, but the same tight convergence, followed by a critical Venus-Mercury-Earth alignment. That shouldn't be underestimated. Look at the solar system, how that looks like here. We have Venus, we have Mercury and we have the Earth, and it converges with lunar geometry, specifically 135 degrees with Mars, 45 degrees with Uranus and a conjunction with Jupiter. These angular separations, they are related to the properties of the electromagnetic wave. That's why we emphasize these geometries, and when they converge in time, we can have a seismic response which is electromagnetic and not gravitational. This is very important. Okay, that's what we have on the 27th, 28th. Again, with the grouping of Mars, Uranus, Jupiter, we can have a seismic response. We're probably going to see a seismic response, the grouping of stronger earthquakes on the 27th, later on the 27th into the 28th. We usually see that burst of stronger earthquakes following the lunar peak or the geometric peak, within the 24 hours following that peak, So be on extra alert there as well in this time frame later on, 27th, 28th. The Venus-Mercury-Earth alignment, that's really a critical one, especially in with the convergence with lunar geometry here on the 27th. And there is a slight possibility of a larger seismic event around the 1st of March, 28th or 1st, near the time of that convergence. And in a really worst case scenario, that could really go into the 8th magnitude range, but that's a really worst case scenario. Then we look at the 2nd of March. We see again the grouping of Jupiter, Mars and Uranus, even more tight. Mars is now in between, time-wise, between Jupiter and Uranus. It is preceded by Mercury, Sun, Mars. Mars is here also involved, and this is significant. We look at the solar system again. Again, Mercury here with the Sun and Mars almost at the same time that the Moon is in opposition with Mars. Mars is the connector here. This is really significant. We're probably going to see an obvious seismic response. This could go well into the 6th magnitude range based on this geometry alone. But we also have the right angle, lunar angle here with Uranus and 45 degrees with Jupiter. And it's, as you can see, this all happening in the morning of the 2nd. So this is a tight convergence. But we're not there yet. We also see that the Moon here is approaching the opposition with the Sun. That's a full moon, and also this is going to be a lunar eclipse that's going to be early on the 3rd, just following the convergence here on the 2nd. But we also see Mercury, Venus, Neptune in a conjunction, Mercury, Venus, Saturn in a conjunction. These are two planetary alignments just following the full moon, so it's going to be pretty crowded here from the 2nd to the 4th. A huge convergence. We can basically see this as one convergence of planetary and lunar geometry. Really, really critical because this all happens around the time of the full moon. And in the solar system, look what happens here on the 3rd, 4th of March at the time of the full moon and the eclipse. We see the Moon opposition with Saturn and Neptune, but also with Venus. This is all happening in a very short time. Mercury as well. And we see, this is the full moon, like I said, Mercury, Venus and Neptune are also going to be in an alignment. And just a little bit to the left we have Saturn. So we have Mercury, Venus, Saturn coming up as well. And as you can see, this is in the morning of the 3rd with the full moon, the eclipse, going into the 4th. This is all happening in less than 1.5 days. A really tight convergence was really critical. So if we consider this convergence from the 2nd to the 4th, we're probably going to see the burst of stronger earthquakes on the 2nd already, and around the time of full moon and those days following the full moon, we can see an obvious seismic response well into the 6th magnitude range. There could be a magnitude 7 in there, and in a worst case scenario, there could be a magnitude 8 around the 5th. So we're going to have two time frames here around the 1st, the 28th of February, the 1st of March, with the Venus-Mercury-Earth alignment converging with the lunar geometry. There can be a really large earthquake and or following the convergence of the full moon. That would be later on the 4th, on the 5th, around the 5th, give or take 1 day, I guess. There could be a seismic peak. Again, in this time frame, we can have a pretty large seismic event. It depends on the stress levels in the Earth's crust, what we're going to have. High 7, borderline 8, or into the 8 magnitude range. If there is not a larger fault section in this time frame that can generate such a large earthquake, we will see the obvious seismic response with the convergence of planetary lunar geometry in this time frame, and it will stay in the 6th magnitude range. But I do expect seismic activity above average in any case, because this is critical geometry, really groupings of convergence, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 27th, 28th is a convergence, and here especially from the 2nd to the 4th with the full moon in between. There's also some buzz in social media and in the media in general about the planetary parade on 28th February. I can tell you here, this is not going to add any significance to seismic activity or any other events, geological events. This is just a visual of the planets in our sky as seen from Earth. It is not even a geometric alignment in the solar system. If we look at the solar system from the top, what we see here is that indeed Earth, Mercury and Venus are closely aligned. Saturn and Neptune are also in the same region of space, but Uranus is far away to the left, much higher in the sky, and Jupiter as well. So as seen from Earth, Mercury and Venus will be near the horizon, close to the Sun. Saturn, Neptune a little bit to the left, but Uranus is far away, and Jupiter as well. So the planetary parade is really just a visual observation how the planets are positioned as seen from Earth. It's not a geometric alignment in the solar system. This is the update for now. Stay safe, everyone. Check out the updates on the website and in our social media. I will do additional updates. Again, be on extra alert. This is going to be a critical time frame because of several planetary alignments converging with lunar geometry, especially Mars, Jupiter and Uranus are going to be in a tight convergence throughout that time frame. So be on extra alert. Stay safe, everyone, and until next time.